Breaking news today. The long-standing relationship of friendship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. The world was shocked and outraged when on February 21, 2022, Vladimir Putin declared two regions of Ukraine independent, and invaded the neighboring country to protect the peace. Trump watched as world leaders denounced this attack on Ukraine's sovereignty and thought to himself, "This is genius." This year's fall United Nations General Assembly meeting was introduced by four consecutive speakers who exemplified the relatively new dominance of the autocratic strongman leader on the world stage. This was an unintended consequence of tradition and protocol. Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil came first, then Donald Trump of the United States. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt and Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey. Two have since met their maker, albeit temporarily, Bolsonaro and Trump. Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines has done the same. However, the question of this phenomenon's political sustainability still looms large. The likes of Vladimir Putin in Russia, Xi Jinping in China, Viktor Orban in Hungary, Narendra Modi in India, Hun Sen in Cambodia, Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, and Abiy Ahmed in Ethiopia continue to rule. An election in Turkey last week, predicted Middle East Institute director Gonal Tal, posed a key question of our time. Is it possible to slow authoritarian backsliding and renew democratic progress? Is Erdogan's success in extending his increasingly authoritarian 20-year rule a precursor to Trump's inevitable return next year, and not just in Turkey? The democratic wave is still receding. According to Freedom House, a think tank that ranks democracies based on their commitment to basic rights, 2022 marked the 17th consecutive year of such backsliding. This trend is consistent with what commentator and author of The Age of the Strongman Gideon Rachman has called, the most sustained global assault on liberal democratic values since the 1930s. A revolt against the liberal consensus that reigned supreme after 1989. These new autocrats, like Trump's precursor Erdogan, exercise absolute power in their own names. To the extent that they are in power, the state is used as a means to further their own ambitions and interests, and they cultivate cults of personality and a politics based on fear and nationalism to achieve their ends. Erdogan's rule has deteriorated into cronyism, mismanagement, and corruption. While a select few at the top amass vast fortunes, millions of Turks live in poverty and tens of thousands of dissidents are incarcerated. Trump's ability to ignore constitutional and balance of power constraints, such as those envisioned by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton for the U.S. Constitution, which limited Trump's often expressed ambitions, is the most notable difference with his rule. Trump's victory was just part of an established global trend, Rachman argues. Though, the unique economic and cultural power of the U.S. meant that his ascent changed the atmosphere of global politics, strengthening and legitimizing the strongman style, and giving rise to a wave of emulators, this is not the case. In his analysis of autocrats, American scholar Arjun Appadurai describes them as a revolting elite which disguises its own elitism in a discourse of anti-elitism, and notes that each of these revolting elites has a similar profile: resentment of traditional cultural and social elites, contempt for liberal proceduralism, hatred of intellectuals, academics, artists, activists, socialists, feminists, admiration for capitalism so long as it regulated only in their